have a big question for you. A lot of my students have said to me that studying, the disadvantage in studying online is that you really waste a lot of time doing nothing. Talk to us a little bit about how do you cope when you're not in the classroom where prof can say, look this way. How do you cope? Because now you have to self-manage. Tell us, talk us through that.
And that is a big question, because originally last year in March, when they evacuated us and they said class was going to be online, and everybody's like, yeah, class is online, it's going to be so easy. But the thing was that we already started the semester. So we started class January, February, and a little bit of March. So some of our schoolwork would have already been done on our assignments. But finishing the semester online wasn't that bad. When it really hit was when we had to come back in the fall and everything was completely online. For me, I did not do as well as I usually do. And that was because there'll be times I just wake up, roll over 5 minutes before class, turn it on the iPad. And I wasn't really focused. And I find that professors who require me to turn on my camera, I was more attentive in those classes rather than the ones that never really cared if we turned on the camera or not. But this semester though,
that's so
a little bit, yes, this semester it's a little bit better because my school has introduced a hybrid model where you have the option of going to your classes in person or staying online whenever you feel like. Being the fact that Barry University is a small school, not a lot of students are here. And then, so I decided to create somewhat of a routine where I do half my classes in person and then half online. And when I'm in the classroom, usually I'm the only one in there, or there's a small amount of us, and then we are distant in the classroom. So that kind of helps me regulate my academic life, because having everything online wasn't working out for me. So I appreciate the hybrid model of being able to go to class in person. And then that forces me to wake up in the morning, get up, get dressed, get dressed for success and go out there and walk. And taking walks are really good too. So it helps to normalize things a little.
Right. So I have to let you still talk about this little part about the abuse of recording. Oh, the recording is there. I can't go back to sleep. How do you manage this idea? Right. Let me start from personally. Rushel will tell you, I don't use PowerPoint. I don't use any of those things, Rush. I've had to be making PowerPoints, Rush. You'd never believe it. Don't laugh at me, right? But students tend to keep this thing in their heads that saying the recording is there. But Prof and I, we know that the recording is different from the first time you're hearing it. Because when we speak, the recording can't give you context. That's right. When we respond to somebody typing in the chat, you don't see that in the recording. So a lot is missed. How do you grapple with that? I mean, you're talking to all the other 17 to 24-year-olds who are in colleges. How do you grapple with this idea that you know that the recording is there and that the sleep is really nice, right? How do you do that?
Well, there are two things. So one, I understand where you're coming from, where a lot of students take advantage of the recording sessions. But then there's another part that I recognize is that now that a lot of people are in financial troubles, students, a lot of my friends too, have to take on additional jobs. And so in that case, I do support recording classes for the students who actually genuinely need it. It's not all the time that, it's we're living in a different time now, and a lot of people are financially burdened, and so they have to help out in whatever way they can. And university fees are expensive no matter what. So I would say I am for recording the sessions. Also too, because I remember one class I had, it was a class where you needed to carry out tasks on the Excel sheets, and we're doing stats and everything. But it was hard for me to be focusing on the Zoom screen and do it at the same time. And then there were times when I had assignments after class that I needed to do, and I needed to be able to look back on what my professor was teaching. And I was miserable in that time because he refused to record his classes because, of course, he doesn't want us to, abuse. Sorry, he doesn't want us to abuse the recording sessions. So I'm definitely for recording, definitely for it. So
Prof is laughing. I don't know what, maybe he's guilty.
No, I'm actually for recording.
Yes,
I'm actually for recording. But what I'll tell you as a lecturer, one of the things that I've had to do is do a lot of research how to keep the lectures interactive.
Yes,
and
yes.
My area, which is medicine, is very conservative. And I'm going to give you one that worked for me the other day. I played the song Jerusalem and tell everybody in the room to dance. Myrna, we sing it for us and we dance. But it's just making our lives even more interactive. But I don't want to chat anymore.
All right. Nia, I feel your pain. I'm on the other side of it, but I do know. But I had to raise it to you because it is one of the very stressful areas for young persons.
yeah.
This idea of, do I record? Do I not record? Do I leave it there? In our case, we have Orveli here, and sometimes the students will email me to say, sir, I don't see the recording. I just say, you know what? Just put it on Orveli so you don't have to wait for the recording. Go and look at it and so forth. So everybody in our hearing that is working with young people at this point, whatever you can do to make life a little better for them, do so. But at the same time, counsel them to remind them, as Nia is saying, that look, you really have to, if you really don't have to go to the recording as your first goal, go to the lecture itself, then use the recording as your backup. That's what it is. It's a backup plan. It's not your primary plan. It's almost like people who go to buy a mango. They go to buy a dozen mango in the market, and then the person give them brata, and they eat the brata. I said, I don't worry about the mango. Of course, that causes conflicts. So don't do that. Let me talk to my brother, Errol, Mr. Errol Camber. He's the person who works with the younger children now. So we're now at the group of the younger ones. All right. So let me start with, how do you cope with these younger ones during COVID?
Thanks for the question.
Okay.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to change the way in which we educate or we teach our children. And so we had to use different platforms to engage the boys and girls. It is not easy, but we are working. We're working assiduously as we go forward. As I said, it's very challenging for me. What I do is I share my podcast with my students. I have a podcast that I started. I have a motivational session with them. When we have devotions in the morning, I always call on particular children to share or parents to share. So I do a lot of talking. I allow them to express themselves. I play music also. I sing to my students. We just try to ensure that they are comfortable. And it's one of the things that I realize is that most of them, at times, they go into this quiet mode. And whenever they are in that mode, I use it as a means to reach them, to talk to them, to empower them, to encourage them, to let them know that they are not alone in this thing. We are in it together, and we just try to get them moving forward.